Good morning, everyone. As we gather here, let us remember that we live, work, and worship on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. The Ramaytush Ohlone understand the interconnectedness of all things and maintained respect and harmony with nature for thousands of years. We acknowledge the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples for their enduring commitment and stewardship, past, present, and future of these lands. And with those who survived the genocide here in California in particular.
Morning, everyone. So lovely to see all of you here. My name is Devin Zuber, and I have had the service great honor of working as the interim pastor while our main reverend, Juncho Lee, has been away on sabbatical. And this is my second to last Sunday I'm going to be spending with all of you. It has gone by so quickly. So it's a delight to be in presence and holy worship together with you as I come to the end of my time. If this is your first Sunday with us, we're doing church a little bit differently today. Once a month, we do worship and meditation, where it's a much more stripped down, bare bones service, accompanied by music, where we will go through a series of scripture readings, accompanied by Blue's amazing flute playing, and also intersected with using this beautiful 17th century Japanese temple gong that belonged to William Keith, the painter who made the landscapes on the wall. And I'll talk more about that when we use the gong for our meditations. So this is a time that instead of being in song together as we normally do, it's Heather's Sunday off, we will be more attuned to our bodies, to our breath, and to turning more inwards than we would otherwise do in a service. I'm very delighted that we have Blue back with us to provide the music for our meditation. Blue comes from the Apache group of indigenous persons of North America and is a song catcher and has really helped revive a lot of traditional Apache songs. And if you enjoy Blue's music today, he does have an album that came out in 2001, Indigo Solstice, and you can get it on Spotify or iTunes. So if you'd like to listen to more of Blue's beautiful Apache flute playing, please check him out online. I was doing so this morning. It's really wonderful work. A few announcements before we take a moment to greet one another. One is that our retreat reached maximum capacity and we were able to accommodate everybody. And my gratitude goes out to some of you who are willing to pitch up a tent so we could all squeeze into the retreat space in Sonoma County. Officially, registration is closed, but if you are really hankering to come with us on retreat over Labor Day weekend, we still would have room for people camping in tents. So let me know ASAP if that was in the back of your mind and you just forgot to get a registration form in. Are there any other announcements from the floor of the congregation to make before we settle into meditation together? Excellent. Let's take a moment before we go into a more interior space, sitting in our rush chairs, to stand together and greet those we find around us. Anna, god morgon. Good morning, lovely to see you. Good to see you, yeah. Hi, Michelle. Was that an okay introduction for you, Blue?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And this is your partner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
We got engaged right out there.
Beautiful. I'm Devin.
Nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you. Yeah.
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 Nice family.
Yeah.
And you should know, you recorded that album in one night.
No way. Incredible.
One paper.
Wow. Phenomenal. It's so beautiful. Really remarkable. Yeah, is there anything else I should say about you or the music today?
No.
If you want to say anything, you're more than welcome to introduce the pieces. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes it more of a ceremony and ritual sort of practice. That's beautiful. Yeah. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us all rejoice and be glad in it. So, for our movement through meditation together, we're going to be taking a journey through very familiar scriptures and a little bit of Swedenborg on the side. And what I'd like us to be thinking about as we enter into these guided meditations together is what it means to be both a guest and a host. In what ways is encountering others who are different from us at the heart of religious practice when it's at its best? And not just religion, what it means to be a good citizen and a person. In my time with you this summer, I've occasionally shared my own experiences of what it was like to be a New Yorker on 9/11 and the aftermath that ensued as I was teaching at a community college 2 blocks north of what became Ground Zero. Those 2 years I spent at the Borough of Manhattan Community College on Chambers Street, and for a time our buildings had been used as a morgue when we came back to teaching in the building, I would wander the streets of Lower Manhattan nearby. And it was an incredible time. I know some of you too were also in New York during that period of 2001. Before things ironed down back into the same old animosities, there was an incredible openness in the city in the way people came together, mourned, and were together in sadness and sorrow over what had happened. If you know Chambers Street in Lower Manhattan, where the Borough of Manhattan Community College is located, it's quite close to the Hudson. So I would walk off to the edge of the river, alone in my thoughts, heavy also with the weight of being a first semester English teacher. And I could look out and see the Statue of Liberty on the horizon. How many of you have been to the Statue of Liberty? Excellent. What is written at the base of the Statue of Liberty? Does anybody know? There are words there.
You're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free.
A beautiful poem by Emma Lazarus, an immigrant child of Sephardic Jews from Portugal who penned this beautiful poem, The Great Colossus, about this vision for what America could be, which was about living with others who are different from us together, e pluribus unum. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. A beautiful image of hope for this country and what it could provide for people who are fleeing persecution. So for our first meditation in music, accompanied by blues Apache flute playing, I would invite you to recall a time when you were welcomed, when you were a guest in somebody's home or a country or cultural context quite different from your own. What did that feel like? What did it taste like, smell like? As the music fills this space, try and recall your memory of the senses of that experience, of being somebody's guest, welcomed with open arms, and being made to feel at home. In a way, all of us are guests as we are standing on unceded territory of the Ramaytush Ohlone people, as we read every Sunday in our land acknowledgement. And I find it particularly beautiful to have music from Blue accompanying us in the space as a reminder that we are all guests on a space that doesn't intrinsically belong to us. It comes out of a history of dispossession and violence. So, let us now enter a space, and you can shut your eyes if you want, to remember that moment, that time, when you were a guest and made to feel at home.
So happy to be here with you. The first reading is from Genesis. Later, the Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks belonging to Mamre. As Abraham was sitting near the entrance to his tent during the hardest part of the day, he glanced up and saw 3 men standing there, not far from him. As soon as he noticed them, Abraham ran to the tent entrance to greet them and bowed low to the ground. "My lords," he told them, "if I have found favor with you, please don't leave your servant. I'll have some water brought to wash your feet while you rest under the tree. I'll bring some food for you, and after that you may continue your journey, since you have come to visit your servant." So they replied, "Very well, do what is proposed." Abraham hurried into the tent and told Sarah, "Quick, take 3 measures of the best flour, knead it, and make some flatbread." Next, Abraham ran to the herd, found a choice and tender calf, and gave it to the young men, who went off in a hurry to prepare it. Then he took curds, milk, and the calf that had been prepared, placed the food in front of them, and stood near them under the tree while they ate. The second reading is from Matthew. "When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you are blessed with my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me.' Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go and visit you?' The king will reply, 'Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for me, of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.'" Praise be the word.
Thank you, Josh. I'm not aware of any of our bumper crop of little kids being here today. Is Cole here?
I could channel Cole, and I'm sure Heather can channel Piers.
That's true. Good
We'll
proxies.
leave it up.
It's sort of, free association screwball question coming up out of the blue. Okay. Well, if we did have children here, I would bring them to the front, and they're always fascinated by this gong we use. So I would have brought it out to give them a chance. Pierce especially loves this, to hit this gorgeous temple bell, or gong, I should say, which comes from 17th century Japan. And we only were able to date it more recently because Chunchol can read Chinese calligraphy, so he was able to figure out the imperial year of when the bell was created. It has a very interesting history. Before it came into the hands of William Keith, it was in the family of Isadora Duncan. So we can think of a history of modernist dance and the Temple of the Wings in Berkeley and gongs and bells flying around. And if the children were here, if they were to practice striking it, I would have asked them to try something the painter William Keith did when he had this gong in his possession. Keith made these beautiful murals in the back wall. Maybe some of you have seen Keith's paintings at the De Young. He's a very important 19th century American landscape painter in whose studio the Sierra Club began. He was very close to John Muir, and that whole history of sort of wilderness nature spirituality comes in part out of this Swedenborgian perspective on the intrinsic spirituality in nature. Later in his life, when Keith would make landscapes like these, many of them invented out of his imagination and memory. They're not specific sites per se. he would strike his gongs and attempt to paint the colors that he heard into his landscape paintings. So I would ask the children, when I hit the gong, shut your eyes, what colors do you see? What colors correspond to the sound you're listening to here? So for us right now, I will strike the gong a few times, and maybe you can think of synesthetically, are there any colors that come to mind? Or just look at these beautiful depictions of the California seasonal cycles. It's almost like a clock. I think we're sort of in between these two latter paintings, which are showing the dry seasons as we go into fall time and harvest. The landscape is dry and parched. So I invite you to look at the paintings or to close your eyes and let your body tell you what colors correspond to the sound of this Zen temple gong. Would anyone like to share? Yes, Frank.
You know, I hear the golden yellow of sunrise.
Beautiful. Yeah, Juliana?
Yellow, orange, and violet and blue.
Beautiful. For me, it's red, orange too. Interesting, we got some commonalities here with the sound.
White, white, yellow.
White, yellow. Beautiful. Yes. Fantastic. I love this little experiment in synesthesia, sort of mixing our senses, which is actually deeply Swedenborgian. There's moments in Swedenborg's mystical writings where he talks about sense of flowers in heaven having a color that the angels can learn from. It's a very poetic kind of image. So, to return to our flow of meditation and music, what do you think of these two scriptures? I'm going to give a little bit of a prelude before Blue starts playing the flute again for our next reflection with music. What are we to make of this incredible story in Genesis of Abraham welcoming strangers? Who were those strangers, if you know the full story? Angels with the Lord, the three strangers who appear under trees. You know, if you go back to the text, and here we are in a building that's supposed to look like a forest. The Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks belonging to Mamre, the famous oaks of Mamre. And Leah, you're sitting right under one of our madrone trees there, so you can imagine what would it be like in the heat of the desert to have these strangers come towards you. For our first contemplation, I ask you to think of being a guest when you have been treated hospitably. Now I would like you to think of what it means to be a host. Could you be like Abraham? Could you extend a radical hospitality to strangers appearing in the desert, not knowing if they were friend or foe? This story we have in Genesis is shared by the three religions of the book. It is a foundational text of hospitality in Judaism, in Christianity, and Islam. The story also appears very prominently in the Quran, in Surah 10, where it's given even more detail about hosting these angels. This stranger can be scary, right? If we don't know who the person is, we open ourselves up to vulnerability by opening the door of our tent or our home for someone to come in. There's a possibility of being harmed. In my first reflection, I mentioned Emma Lazarus, the great poet whose words are at the base of the Statue of Liberty. She came from a Sephardic Jewish tradition. Here, I would like to mention another Sephardic Jew, and that is the French philosopher Jacques Derrida. Maybe some of you are surprised for me to mention the granddaddy of deconstruction in a church service. Late in his life, Derrida was very interested in hospitality and what it would mean politically, culturally, even theologically, to welcome the strange stranger into our home. This figure of indeterminacy. Derrida felt if we were truly open to a kind of radical hospitality, it could undo assumptions about ourselves, that we might learn something new and be transformed by that contact with the other who was coming through our tent door. So, when have you been a host? If you've been a guest and showered with hospitality, when have you been in a situation where you have had to extend your boundaries to bring in the strange stranger and make them at home? What did that feel like? Was it unsettling? Did it change you? Did it bring you to a new perspective? As blues flute music accompanies us, try and remember that particular experience, or maybe in general, what it was like to host, to extend oneself towards another.
Before I play, I'd like to share my Apache grandmother's blessing of gratitude. I'd like to thank the Great Spirit, the great mystery, for the warm winds of heaven that blow softly through this house and at our backs as we make our way day by day and moment by moment along our chosen paths. I'd like to thank Mother Earth and Father Sky, Grandfather Sun and Grandmother Moon, all things that walk, crawl, fly, and swim.
before the third reading, I'd just like to share that my parents and I lived in San Anselmo for 36 years, and during those 36 years, there was only 6 months where we didn't have a house guest. So we always had, failed little starlets staying with us, or, lumbering uncles who are writing books, or crazy people, which is really sounds exciting for a child like me, but, and it's a great thing. But I think I like a little mix also of, consistency. So I try to, with Cole and I try to keep our steps real nice and consistent. So I recommend opening your doors to all, but maybe on a limited basis. And to invoke my father once again, who would always have little cliches or bromides, as he called them, he would say that love is the only thing. Everything else is time and money. And today's Swedenborg writing is just replete with love, so I'm very happy to share these words with you. Divine love and wisdom cannot fail to be and to be manifested in others that it has created. The hallmark of love is not loving ourselves, but loving others and being united to them through love. The hallmark of love is also being loved by others, because this is how we are united. Truly, the essence of all love is to be found in union. In the life of love that we call joy, delight, pleasure, sweetness, blessedness, contentment, and happiness. The essence of love is that which is ours should belong to someone else. Feeling the joy of someone else as joy within ourselves, that is loving. Feeling our joy in others, though, and not theirs in ourselves, is not loving. That is loving ourselves, while the former is loving our neighbor. These two kinds of loves are exact opposites. True, they both unite us, and it does not seem as though loving what belongs to us or loving ourselves in the other is divisive. Yet it is so divisive that to the extent that we love others in this way, we later harbor hatred for them. Step by step, our union with them dissolves, and the love becomes hatred of corresponding intensity. Can anyone fail to see this who looks into the essential nature of love? What is loving ourselves alone, really, and not loving someone else who loves us in return? This is more fragmentation than union. Love's union depends on mutuality, and there is no mutuality within ourselves alone. If we think that there is, it is because we are imagining some mutuality in others. We can see from this that divine love cannot fail to be manifested in others whom it loves and who love it. If this is characteristic of all love, it must be supremely characteristic, infinitely characteristic of love itself.
Thanks, Josh. We don't always read the Swedenborg passages as part of our service, but I thought this one was too good to pass up. If I had to sum up what Swedenborg's theology was in one sentence, I think it would be a question we are meant to ask ourselves. What do you love? What do you love? The essence of love is that what is ours should belong to someone else. Feeling the joy of someone else as joy within ourselves. Beautiful. Often Swedenborg can be very tendentious and long and Baroque 18th century prose, but that's about as simple and clear as it can get. How is this question of love at the heart of what it means to both be a guest and to host, and to feel the joy of others in yourself as if it were your own. Perhaps when you recall the time when you were a host, you remembered that feeling, the joy you brought to a stranger or someone you didn't know very well who experienced your cooking or your food or tea at the kitchen table. I too grew up in a family that had a lot of house guests. Maybe not as wild and bohemian as your parents sound, Josh. But my grandmother, who was a deep reader of Swedenborg, loved talking theology at her kitchen table to all different stripes of people. And that's where I really learned the most, I think, about this tradition, was observing the way she dealt with others lovingly and kindly. For our final contemplation, we move away from music into the sonic space of the gong and then silence. And I would invite you for this part of our guided meditation to remember that you are a guest in your body. Isn't it so strange? Here we are, spirits, but bound by flesh and blood, created by our parents in this way. It's a miracle. So I invite you, as we enter the silence and the sound of the gong, to begin with your body, to pay attention to your breath, how good it is to breathe in that spirit, in and out, and also gravity, the shape of your body in these rush chairs, these tuning reed chairs, and to have a sense of love and gratitude for this shape that has been given to you to be in this world, loving and witnessing others. I will be ringing the gong periodically for several times, letting the sound die into silence before striking it again. And after a successive sequence of those sounds, we will enter a time of silent meditation. And I really invite you, especially if meditation is part of your practice, to focus on your breath, to come back to your body, the sounds in this space. And if you need to think about something, maybe think about love. What do you love? Who do you love? I invite you to close your eyes. We will begin by taking a deep breath together, in and out. And I will now start striking the gong as we meditate in silence together. was almost tempted to pluck a flower from this beautiful bouquet. We had a busy weekend here at the church. There was a funeral and an elopement. I'm not sure if this was for the elopement or the funeral. I've sometimes preached with you all about the moment in the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus says, "Look at the lilies of the field. They neither toil nor spin and not worry." And it's very akin to, well, I won't try and pluck it. A famous moment in the Buddhist tradition where after meditating for a long time, the Buddha got up and everyone was expecting a sermon, and he simply held out a flower and let the space fill with observing this beautiful flower. And I thought that would be kind of fun to do with all of you. As we have a moment now to give as you're able, and it's not required if you're visiting this church, it's a chance to be filled with gratitude for beauty, the beauty and goodness of this world, your body that can breathe and be here today. As the offertory basket makes its way through the room, try and hold that gladness at being alive, at having a body in your hearts. O Holy One, may you bless the generosity of this congregation. May these gifts do your work to be your heart and your hands and your loving presence in the city of San Francisco. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and bring you peace. Amen.